All right, let's
blanked
just do
out.
it real quick. We'll do our normal thing. Let's try to do it without any gaps. Hey, I'm Nate,
Okay. And I'm Colin.
and this is
There was
PB time.
Okay, there was no gaps in that one.
That's all right. That's all right. That's pretty good. We're
Okay,
getting
cool.
better.
This
So,
is probably not true.
general thoughts. Give me your general thoughts about today's episode. Oh,
Yeah, I thought-
for the record, sorry, just for the record, we're doing Season 3, Episode 6, Guns for Hire.
You know what's interesting? The title doesn't show up for me in the Disney
Yeah,
Plus app.
it didn't show up for us either. Yeah, in the in the episode list, it didn't show up on Disney Plus, but it
Yeah.
came up on the screen. Bree noticed it, so either that or she's messing with me in some sort of elaborate April 5th prank.
Well, thank you, Bree, for giving us the title of today's episode.
Yes. All right. General thoughts. This was certainly a sort of a different. I don't know. It's a weird one, right?
Yeah, dare I say filler?
Dare you? Did you dare?
Yeah,
I'm.
did I dare? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to cut you off. Is that your thought?
Yeah, I would say it was borderline filler episode. I think not a whole lot to. I feel like I wrote it down actually. Let me look at my notes. I said overall I thought it was a pretty boring episode. I don't think it really advanced the story arc that they're trying to tell. However, I will say because it's still Star Wars, it did kind of bring in some Star Wars lore.
Sure.
So it wasn't really for the purpose of the story, but it was just Star Wars related cool lore that I think was fun to at least see, but it would have been more ideal if they tied it into what we're expecting to be part of the story and whatnot. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head in a lot of ways. That it felt like we have all these things that they've been telling us are important, these little bits and pieces of story that still haven't all sort of connected yet. We still haven't seen anything from Dr. Pershing, since they put him in the machine. So maybe he's dead. Maybe he's brain dead. Who knows what's going on? Elia Kane, she showed up again, and so they're giving us hints that she's coming back. But whether or not that's going to happen now or another later episode or another later season, they just haven't said. I have my own thoughts about things that occurred to me at the end that I'll talk about later. But it's just filler is, I think, at least the middle main part of today's episode felt a little fillery, and I hate to say it because I'm a huge fan and I've really loved what the guys have done with this series, but I did feel a little well, we'll get into the reasons why we feel this way, but it didn't feel like you said, it didn't really advance any of our characters or our story in any way. It just kind of was this other thing that happened, this side story thing that maybe it'll come around. There was a sort of mention of some sort of political friendship thing, trying to get Mandalore to be considered a planet of its own again, or an independent system or something again. Maybe that'll be important, but it felt like a lot of filler and just sort of some let's throw some celebrities at it and be done,
Yeah. Well, we have 2 more episodes left, so they have a lot to. I feel like they've unpacked more, introduced more things to the story, but have little time left to kind of really tell it.
Right.
So that either means they don't resolve all of it and they leave us on parts of leave us on a cliffhanger, or they just tell it in a later. I don't know. We'll have to see, but
yeah, it's possible. All right, so let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we open up on people that we don't recognize right away, right? In this weird. So the species there are the Quarrens. First appearance, at least in whatever our human timeline on Earth, was in the original. Yeah, I think the first Quarren we ever saw, I think, was in Jabba's palace. But the guys with the Davy Jones face, beard thing. and they've got a little ship. We're not really sure who they are, what they're doing, or anything, but there's a person, a Quarren person, in like a tank of water, maybe back to fluid, but it seemed like they were just in a tank of water. And as we know, Quarren are an aquatic race, so I guess whatever, that's fine. But they're being approached by Imperial light cruiser, right? Because I thought it was Moff Gideon's at first. Because I think, isn't that the same kind of ship he has?
I think it is his ship. I think we find out later that
is it his capital ship? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that. Yeah. I know that Bo-Katan stole all these ships from the former Empire or whatever, but I hadn't thought about. Of course, it would be. Go ahead.
I gotta tell you, I feel like that we have it as like Romeo and Juliet in our notes. Yeah. I did feel like that scene was a little cringe, just like the tentacles wrapping the other. Yeah. It was the Mon Calamari. Oh, I know. I did listen to it with my AirPods, and I think Disney Plus works with Apple, where you can get this like spatial audio thing, where it kind of feels like the voices are more like up in your face kind of deal, like it's more immersive. But particularly that scene just felt weird to me. Even like the voice actors that are like, or that obviously they look like creatures, so it's like you can't really see it. Just the voices didn't match to the characters themselves either. The Mon Calamari specifically. So I don't know. It just wasn't a good start, let's just say, to the episode.
Yeah, it was weird, man. And it felt, sort of like this weird subplot that they're trying to tell us is important, but we don't know these characters or anything yet. They're clearly in love, or at least he's in love with her. But she said something that threw me off, that made me wonder if there's some other thing that's happening that we're not aware of. She said, so my theory is that she's got some, like, whether sinister or just secret plan in the background happening. But she said, I can't give up all I've built for a little fling, right? Which is insulting to the, whatever, the Mon Calamari guy. But it sort of implies that there's something happening. And if you'll remember, the Mon Calamari and Quarren, there was a side story that went, I think, several episodes in the Clone Wars, that the Mon Calamari and Quarren were fighting for the control of Mon Cala, the home planet of Mon Calamari. There's all this underwater stuff, and there was this, maybe like, I'm sorry, Dave, but maybe the dumbest thing in all the Clone Wars to me was the shark guy. It's like, oh, we've got we've got the squid people, and we've got the octopus people, and we got to have a shark guy. I was just like, it was a little too like little kids show, and not enough like Star Wars feeling to me.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's funny.
All this is
I do
to
remember
say,
those shark things.
Yeah, I do remember. But that episode, if nothing else, laid the groundwork for these two races don't necessarily get along historically, right? And so it really does feel kind of like Romeo and Juliet, that clearly their families wouldn't be cool with them being together, and he's apparently a royal family member. I don't know if I guess they said prince, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible that, it's just a matter of the two of them have this romance that's sort of rejected by their societies, but it could also be that, like, she's bailing on him because she's got more important things going on and she can't afford to have anybody looking into it. So, that's maybe a hopeful look at it. I'd like it to be more important than just this silly little, the two of them are in love and whatever, I actually had a moment where I thought that he might have been the same character in The Mandalorian Season 1, after he's done his job for the client, remember, Werner Herzog's character. He goes back to Grief Karga, and he wants more jobs, and so he gives them, whatever, pick of the lot, whatever, and it's one of them is this nobleman's son who's jumped bail. Do you remember that? But it's a Mon Calamari guy, and it says, "Oh, nobleman's son who jumped bail. That's the best of the lot, whatever." So that was the first thing I thought of when I thought, here's a prince, a nobleman. It's like, maybe that's the same guy. Now, I have, other than that, no proof that that's the case, but maybe wonder.
Oh, You didn't look into it. Didn't.
I mean, he looks like a Mon Calamari guy. It's. I don't want to sound awful, but I can't exactly tell one from the other perfectly, you know. And it was also the only glimpse that we saw of him in that shot from season 1 was a little like hollow image, you know, rotating. So,
jeez, you have a good
so
memory.
we'll see. Again, maybe it's something like that. I've just watched the first season, especially, so many times, man. That's the thing. Yeah, but
That's awesome.
yeah. So who knows? Probably nothing. But all that did was serve to really introduce what's his name?
Axe Wolves.
Axe Woves, which is officially the hardest Mandalorian name to say so far.
Yeah.
Axe
Also,
Wolves.
autocorrect changed it to Wolves.
Which is better.
And,
we talked about that.
Yeah. So Dave Filoni, can you change his name to Axe Wolves instead?
Yeah, you don't have to do it right now. Just sometime. Sometimes.
Maybe by next episode.
You know, now would actually be okay if you wanted to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, he's out there with the fleet, and we knew that was going to be part of this episode because it was introduced at the end of the last one that Bo-Katan's looking to reunite everybody now because she walks both ways or whatever. She's walked both worlds.
Well, when we first got to that scene, my first thought was, are those the set of Mandalorians that are working with Moff Gideon? Because at the end of the last episode, there was the broken ship. The Beskar, yeah. And, you know, they said that they're working with Mandalorians, so that was also the first scene of the next. So I don't know, my head went and connected those two things together.
Yeah, so we still don't know if the people who broke Moff Gideon out were friends of his or enemies of his, right? And I had my own theories I mentioned in the Clone Wars, maybe it was Rebels. It was Rebels that Gar Saxon leads this group of Mandalorians who have, like, allied themselves with the Empire, right? So it's possible that there are those guys still around. You know, it's possible. You know, the Mandalorians are scattered. Their philosophies are all varied. You know, so who knows? But it also is very possible that somebody like Paz Vizsla busted his way in there and took him out to torture him. You know, so like we don't know. But it's unusual too that it was stuck in a wall. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, how do you break Mandalorian armor easily? You know,
right.
And we've heard that the Mandalorians don't approve of making weapons out of it because it can pierce Mandalorian armor or whatever. So, like, what does that mean? I don't know. Anyway, that was the last episode. We're talking about this one, I guess. But that was an interesting tidbit. I don't know, man. It's possible that it was those guys. Maybe somebody hired those guys. It seems like they're just, you know, a highest bidder situation right now. I don't know if they've got their own like plans exactly. But main part of the story this time. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No. Not much else happened in that kind of section. So, how does the transition work? I'm trying to remember how that transitioned to the new planet. Plazir 15?
Yeah, Plazir. Actually,
Plazir.
Bree and I had a conversation about that too. I was apparently saying it wrong, or I didn't know what it was. So she told me, and then I claimed later that she had done it wrong. So that was partially my fault.
What was it? Plazir versus?
Well, she said I think it was Placer or or something like that. And later on, I saw the actual spelling of it, and I said like, oh, it's Plazir, and she took offense to that. But anyway, yeah. So it's just that the two of them, I should say two. It's actually four of them now. I guess it's Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, Grogu, and R5D4 is in the ship too, because he's still tagged along in Bo-Katan's ship, and they're flying over. They're like flying over the planet, and there's this big dome. It's this like lush, techie looking world. It was kind of a cool looking place as they flew over. But then the ship gets like caught in like, I don't know. They said that they took control. It wasn't a tractor beam, I guess, but whoever, like the docking station, whatever, pulls them in immediately right to a spot. They can't get to where they're going. They're immediately sidetracked away from the other Mandalorians to do a quick little side quest before they can move on.
Yep. And that's when we get introduced to two characters that I don't actually know their character names.
Yeah, they're like royalty, both of them apparently.
Yeah. But one of them is Jack Black, and then the other one's Lizzo. And
yeah,
Boy, do we have some thoughts around that.
Yeah, you start. Tell me.
I think when you're introducing famous people, I can understand Jack Black a little bit more because he's established as an actor within the industry. Although I do think he has a pretty too recognizable of a face, but that also can be done properly, as we could see in like the prequels and stuff. They brought in Mace Windu's character, Samuel Jackson, but Lizzo was like a little odd one. I mean, I like her as an artist, but she doesn't really do much in film and TV. But I guess she's trying to get into that. But all this to say is, you kind of walk a thin line when you bring in recognizable, famous people that are maybe necessarily known for something else. And the risk I feel like you take is it has the potential of taking you out of the universe and believing the characters that are there. And I think for these two characters, it kind of felt like Lizzo and Jack Black show,
Yeah, and that's part of the issue I have with this kind of thing. Daniel Craig was in episode 7, The Force Awakens, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
He played a stormtrooper.
But he wasn't.
You wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? Like, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that I'm like, I don't mind that. A little Easter egg, like, oh, that was kind of fun. I didn't know that was that guy. Simon Pegg played the, like, monster guy that buys parts from Rey in that movie, too. You know what I mean? Like, very serious.
My ship.
Yeah, the one who had Unkar Plot, who had stolen the ship from someone else who stole the Falcon from Han Solo, whatever. But there's a way to do it and like make it fun for the actor, but not like pull you out of the story, right? And I feel like Jack Black looking exactly like Jack Black, and Lizzo, who I'm less familiar with, but looking exactly like herself. Like, neither of these characters felt like they belonged in Star Wars. They look like they were cut and paste out of, whatever. You just pulled them off the red carpet and threw them in a Star Wars movie and called it good, I wonder if there's like a promotion thing happening here, because Jack Black's got, he's playing Bowser in the new Mario movie, so like I almost wonder if there's they made a deal or something, but it felt out of place, and it did feel distracting to me, if you're gonna put them in there, maybe make it a little less obvious that it's just them. I don't know. It wasn't horrible. They didn't take up like the whole thing, but their presence did take me out of it just a little bit. So I don't know. It's fine. They gotta do what they gotta do, I guess.
But so Din, Bo, and Grogu are chatting with them, and they essentially asked to see the group of Mandalorians that this royalty has been hiring to do side quests for, but before they grant them permission, basically they send Din, Bo on a side quest of their own. So that's kind of, I would say, the big chunk of this episode is this side quest. We're calling it the droid story, which actually is now I think about it, is a TV show, isn't it? It's like a
I think
kid's
it's Droid Stories or something like that. It's Legos.
Or Droid Tales.
I think it's Lego. Droid Tales.
Yeah.
Those are actually kind of fun, man. Those are all right.
Yeah,
I didn't mind
I
those.
agree.
It's C-3PO like poorly telling stories of things that actually happened in the Star Wars movies. I love that. That was great.
Yeah. But you want to walk us through kind of our next character that get introduced?
Yeah, well, so they get sent to like look at like production or whatever, and I don't know, did they go straight to that character? I can't remember.
Yeah, because they talk about how it's an issue with the droids, and then they, they're having an issue with like these droids.
Yeah. So it is a longtime old favorite character, actor of mine, Christopher Lloyd, who I became familiar with through Back to the Future mostly, but also he was in Taxi for a number of years, and I grew up watching Nick at Night. But he was in a lot of things in those times, and he plays these sort of like wild, crazy characters, and so I'm always excited to see him. He's actually in a video game that I'm a fan of here just a few years ago too. But all this is to say, he plays a character that we find out later is named Commissioner Hellgate. And he
Commissioner Hellgate.
Yeah. No, it sounds like he's kind of just like he's the he's like the head of security basically, and he's in charge over these droids and whatever. And he's got a big red button that he can push that'll shut off all the droids. But we have a Wall-E situation in this city, which is people have become so dependent on the droids and they don't want to work and they don't do anything themselves. So to shut off all the droids means people, the droids stop bringing them food and drinks and taking care of everything, And so, it's kind of
not going to lie.
Yeah. What do you say?
Not going to lie, when they talk about the society relying on robots, two thoughts. Mm-hmm. One, I'm like, it's kind of not that bad. Because he mentions, like, they don't do crap. Like, they don't even work because the droids do everything. So it's just like, in my head, I'm like thinking like you're chilling on a beach, sipping on a pina colada or something, and like not having to, put in a day's worth of work. So a part of me was like, oh, that's not too bad. But the part that is more real is I feel like we're actually as a society moving more into that. I just got a Tesla and I was like testing out like
it?
Yeah, I got it last week.
I knew you were thinking about it. Crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And I did the self-driving.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I was going to ask you if you're going to do next week's podcast from the Tesla.
You know what's funny is I thought about it.
Driving the Los Angeles streets.
If we go back to Zoom, I can. They have a Zoom app.
I'm just messing with you. I don't think that's really the best. I don't want you dying out there.
I could do it while parked, but anyways. There you go. There's obviously AI in that, and I think as a society there's AI popping left and right in a lot of these new tech endeavors and stuff. So it also painted a glimpse of like, oh, this could be, in 40 years or whatever, we're just all relying on this stuff. And
might be a little social commentary happening there, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was, that's where my mind wandered when.
Well, they're certainly not the only ones, the first ones to ever bring up this idea. Obviously, there are plenty of dystopian movies, and I mentioned Wall-E even as the first one that came to my mind because it's a ship full of fat people who don't know how to do anything anymore, and their bone density is down and all this nonsense. But anyway, so the people don't want to give up their freedoms, the need that they have for these droids to take care of them. And so instead of like shutting it down for a while so that they can figure this out, they're like, no, we'll just like deal with these things and people occasionally being hurt and that sort of thing. Like, it was just kind of funny, I mean, we're a little bit there already. That's kind of like, well, I know that TikTok's bad, but like I kind of want to keep using it. So I mean, that's not a judgment. I'm right there with everybody doing that. So yeah. So anyway, he then says, if you want a list of the locations or whatever these droids are experiencing these malfunctions, you're going to have to go to the Ugnaughts downstairs. Which again, a little bit of social commentary there. The Ugnaughts are like these second-class citizens still. They're still working. The Ugnaughts are still working, despite the fact that the people, the humans, whatever, on the higher level, are living the high life. That was an interesting point to be made too, which is, for the record, how the Empire treated them. But anyway, this like independent system thing isn't all perfect either. So they go down to the Ugnaughts, who are working on. Do you remember what kind of droids they're working on?
I don't know. I can't remember. Not the battle droids, right?
Yeah, it was a super battle droids is what they were working on.
Okay.
Welding away and whatever. But yeah, I thought that.
Well, that's kind of the first time we see
nostalgia for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't really seen much of the battle droids since the prequels, outside of the animations, at least.
Yeah, you've seen a little bit there, but we did see. Again, it's interesting. Din's. Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. I can't get too far ahead. We gotta keep moving, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So they talk to the Ugnaughts. There's this moment where the Ugnaughts won't listen to him, and so.
Well, they don't listen to Bo.
Right.
The Bo's trying to talk, and they're not like paying attention to her. So she's like, "Well, this is useless. This is pointless." So then Din speaks up, and he mentions that he's friends or encountered. I wrote it down in my notes. Quill.
Yeah. Ugnaught Quill. That's what he calls him.
Ugnaught Quill, yeah, and I guess like they earned Din's respect by him kind of name dropping him, but
yeah, well, it's either that
so
or just him. Yeah, it's hard to know exactly what it was that loosened him up, but probably that they either knew him or maybe his reputation spoke for itself, or maybe just him recognizing an Ugnaught as a friend and not just whatever. You know what I mean? He treats them sort of respectfully, and he also tells them he doesn't think their work is crap. Yeah. Could be.
Yeah, so that's the main call out is the way Dan addresses it versus Bo is way more like from a respected, you know, hey, I know you're putting in good work. This is not your fault. We're not accusing you this is your fault, but we're also on a side quest, just like how you're on a quest having to do this. You know, help us do our job or whatever at the end of the day. Which Ugnaughts are very job focused. Obviously, they're hard workers, so I think just that little mini speech kind of spoke to them, and basically they got the list from the Ugnaughts because of the way Din was conversing with them.
Yeah. No, I love there's this little, like, detective story evolving through it. Yeah, I mean, it felt like, I mean, not like Law and Order exactly, but they're, like, going from group to group, questioning this guy and that guy, and they're playing, like, almost good cop, bad cop a little bit. Because they get to the line with the... I don't know, the standard battle droid guy, the guy with the voice, you know, the whatever, Roger.
Oh yeah.
On the like line where the super battle droids are carrying like crates or something, and Din immediately starts kicking them. He's like trying to like upset them, trying to like whatever, and you know, the whole time Bo's like irritated. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, stop provoking these things. And the you know, the whatever battle droid was saying something too. He was trying to stop him. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. I had a lot of theories about what was happening here. One of my theories was, first of all, that maybe the droids were going on strike. That it was like, you know, these droids are old enough now. They've been running the same programming for long enough with the same memories that, like, maybe they're developing personalities and stuff. And which is never, I don't know if it's ever strictly been said, but it's always felt to me like that's how R2 and C-3PO and, like, you know, Chopper from Rebels, they all have these little personalities. And I've always sort of wondered, is it just that they've been doing the same thing for so long without, like, a memory wipe and that sort of thing that, like, little by little they get, like, cantankerous and weird and develop these things? It's my little theory.
Interesting.
Anyway, that turns out not to be the case.
Yeah, so as Din's kind of kicking around the droids, one of them gets knocked down. That is a funny scene, by the way. I'm glad you
I don't know why I thought that was so funny, yeah.
It is funny. Also, I think there's a little bit of hatred going on, and we can get to that later.
Yeah. I want to talk about that a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah. And he kicks down one, and it falls down, and it acts up, or whatever. Its circuits gets, you know, reset or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I forget. But then he starts shooting at them or something, or throwing things, and then starts running. And I did kind of make a comment that I did, you know, we don't really see, to my knowledge, we don't see these battle droids run. We kind of see them more like bulky, stock, slow movement, but very strong.
Yeah. Marching.
Kind of felt weird seeing it like just book it, you know, just like run real fast to the town. I don't know if you felt the same.
No, I mean, it didn't occur to me, yeah, but you're right. I remember that. And you're right. It felt like, I mean, honestly, I feel like it was reinforcing my own theory that they had this personality, because it looked like a desperate person, you know, like swings at him and then like runs off into a dark alley, and he's like trying to throw stuff to get him off his trail and everything. It was weird. But yeah, there's this little chase, and in the end, you know, Din comes around to like cut him off, and Bo shoots him in the back. And it brings up this kind of like, I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that as we get into the next scene, right? This droid. Again, I'm sorry, Dave. I feel like this stuff was dumb, but he's got what they called a spark pad on him, which I assume is a matchbook. I assume that that's what it's supposed to be. It's just like, you know, in you know, some old detective movie, like, oh well, you know, the suspect was carrying this matchbook for this bar, like it's this old black and white movie trope. And so they go to the resistor, which is, what is it, Colin? What is the resistor?
Like the name of what it is?
Yeah, it's a droid bar. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was so weird.
Oh,
so
sorry, my head was
unnecessary.
skipping. Yeah, my head was skipping away to like what the actual thing was that they found. But yeah, it took them to a droid bar, and
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. I didn't think it was. I thought it was kind of cool, but only because I never really thought about what it kind of plays to your personality thing that you were getting at a little
Sure.
bit ago, where it's like, I mean, if these droids just don't get wiped and stuff, they kind of develop personalities. I imagine they start developing a routine on their own or whatever. And it was a
Right.
little weird, like seeing a bunch of droids like at a bar and like
Right.
I basically put like they're like pretty much drinking oil or like lubricant, you know? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So, man, maybe.
oh,
this
but
is
real quick though,
Yeah.
about the droid bar, I'm pretty sure in one of the pan shots, I see the DJ at Galaxy's Edge Cantina. Did
Yeah.
you notice that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I wrote down a note, and I'll address that in just a second. But I'm gonna do a little teaser here for a video that you and I need to make sometime that just addresses, and we wouldn't be the first ones to bring this up, the serious problem that Star Wars has with droids, whether they're like like beings with emotions and real intelligence and creativity and all these things that are capable of this higher level of individual thought, or are they dumb machines? You know what I mean? Because if they are more than dumb machines, then it's essentially slavery that they're doing. That's the problem. Is it's like they treat R2 like a buddy. You know what I mean? But like, does he belong to someone? You know what I mean? Is there
Right.
like, I don't know, whatever. So all
Definitely
these
interesting topic.
all these droids are there, and they are doing these very human things like drinking whatever it was, like you said, it's like a lubricant, and playing what's the card game Han Solo and Lando play? Is it Pazak?
Oh,
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Because there are two
Shoot,
card
you're
games, and one of them is from Knights of the Old Republic, and one of them is from like Solo. But it's whatever the card game is that they play. I always want to say Pazak, but I think that might be the old one. That's the one that always comes to my mind first.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
definitely thought of the scene in Solo first.
Yeah. Well, so they're playing. Yeah, they're playing cards. Like some of these droids are playing cards,
Yeah.
and you do see. I don't know if it's supposed to actually be him or just one of these droids, because he showed up in. There was one of those in I think an episode of Rebels. It was flying like a shuttle, and he was so. Rex is his name, the DJ Rex from Galaxy's Edge in Oga's Cantina, is canon the same droid that used to do Star Tours. Like they did, like he led Star Tours before it was like C-3PO, right? Do you remember that?
Oh, I wonder.
So it's probably not the
Yeah.
same puppet, but it is meant to be the same character that originally did Star Tours at Disney World, Disneyland.
You're
So-
right, man. I think as a kid I did the Star Tours in Disney World, and I remember a robot. And then when I moved out to California and go to Disneyland, it was C-3PO. Maybe I thought
Yeah, it's different.
that was just Disneyland's version, but looks like
No, yeah. Yeah, so
That's
anyway,
interesting.
it was a fun tie-in, and like I said, it wasn't the first time that they've tied in that kind of robot. I think that there was one in Rebels, at least one. But Din gets a little ugly, gets a little threatening with the protocol droid who's serving drinks, and everybody gives them dirty looks, and it's this really weird sort of, like I said, like tropey, like detective thing, and then there's this moment where they all sort of say like, but we like our jobs, we like humans, like we want to help you because we don't want to be like out of a job. Which, isn't that a funny reversal? A bunch of humans thinking that robots thinking that humans are going to take their jobs. That was a funny little moment, but it was weird. Anyway, but after all that, they describe that the way this works is all the droids drink Nepenthe, is what I wrote down. Nepenthe,
yeah.
which is a lubricant that also quote unquote patches their programming. So, it like makes them wonder, is it this whatever this drink that they have that's affecting the droids? So they track it down. Yeah, go for
Real
it.
quick though, there was one right before they discover it's Nepenthe. I want to just touch real quick on This time around, when they're interrogating the droids, Din loses his cool. So then Bo has to step in and kind of talk to the droid, because she apparently knows how to talk to droids because of the Clone Wars and whatnot. And Din kind of hates droids because I think they kind of were a part of his childhood where his city was getting ruined.
Yeah, they killed his parents,
They killed his, But I wanted to make a note that there's this, we're seeing more of this like dynamic between Bo and Mando that we've been seeing in previous episodes that I think was really relevant here, which is like they both kind of need each other. Like as simple as just talking to, whatever this investigation is.
Didn't know how to talk to the Ugnaughts, and it was an interesting reversal because, first of all, like I don't like when they take a character whose arc has sort of completed or grown in one area, and then they show him, like, they back him up. I felt a little that way with Han Solo when it came to Episode 7, in that, like, oh, well, he just went back to smuggling, being the dirtbag, doing all the bad stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, that kind of bugged me, because I'm like, we saw his character arc come to sort of a beautiful completion. Now, all that said, I actually did like how Han Solo's story ended in that movie. It still showed maturity and a closing of his his character a bit, so I didn't hate that 100%. But like in this case, what it feels like they're doing is they're taking Din, who yes in the first season was very anti-robot, but then in the second season, like you see him starting to grow. Excuse me. He when he goes and he sees Pelimoto on Tatooine at one point, and the droids come up and she calls him off. She's like, he hates droids, and he's like, well, you might as well let him give it a once-over, you know what I mean? And anyway, he's showing growth. And then for him to be like, no, droids suck, I hate droids again, I didn't like it. But again, they're trying to tell a certain story right now, so they're shifting the characters around to fit what they're trying to accomplish. So, yeah. Usually it's Din that, like, I mean, with the Tusken Raiders, too, the Sand People, like, he was the guy who understood the culture and understood the people and looked at them as more than monsters, And so here, in this reversal, like you said, Bo-Katan was like, hey man, cool it. Like, these guys didn't necessarily do that, and that was interesting.
Yeah. And then real quick on the Nepenthe, or Nepenthe.
Yeah.
It's
that word that was just made up.
Yeah. So I did some research because I wanted to understand it, because they mentioned somewhere, there was a line that made me think of it. So I did some research, and apparently it was made by the Techno Union.
The Techno Union. Yeah.
Which
who were Clone Wars separatists,
Yeah. And they worked with Count Dooku, which we'll get into him later. But apparently their leader was Wat Tambor.
Wat Tambor, yeah. He was the guy. Do you remember the guy that's always twisting the knobs, like his voice changing around? Yeah.
And he also got sliced and diced by the one and only Anakin in Revenge of the Sith during Order 66.
He went in there and cut him down, didn't he?
Yeah, it was at the... oh my gosh. I'm forgetting the fire planet. Brain fart.
Yeah. All I can think of is Malachor, but it's not Malachor.
No, but it does start with an M. Mustafar,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, so where are we in the list here? They take the like a bit of the droids, like whatever, oil, blood, and they find, I think for the first time ever, nanobots. It's possible that nanobots have been in Star Wars and the Clone Wars or somewhere along the line, but I don't remember there being nanobots before. But there are nanobots, and they have a specific like name on them, whatever, right? They said something about the Techno Union or something, didn't they? They were manufactured by the Techno Union.
Yeah, they zoom in.
Oh, yeah, they said the nanobots had a chain code, which again, that's...
Yeah.
I thought chain codes were for identifying people, but maybe not. I don't know. But as they do that, they get attacked. And, fairly interesting twist. It's one of the, torture robots, you remember, from Episode 4, the first one that goes in to interrogate Princess Leia.
Yeah.
This one's painted white, so we know that it's good. It's a medical one. But turns out it's not good. It starts shooting lasers all over the room, which, by the way, why are these things equipped with these crazy powerful lasers? But it attacks them.
Yeah, why don't they why don't they just like remove that function, like decommission those parts of the robot, but keep the others?
Yeah.
Maybe they can. I don't know.
I don't know. But Din cuts it in half with the Darksaber, and I can't remember how did they then get back to the. I don't know. They went back to the commissioner, right?
They basically discovered that he ordered the parts from the tech union, and so then they go directly to the commissioner to confront him.
Right. Yeah, so they go to Commissioner Hellgate, again, Christopher Lloyd's character, and as they question him about it, we find out that he's a big fan of Count Dooku, which is not great.
Huge.
And they call him a separatist, and he sort of balks at that. I can't remember exactly, like, his he felt like that wasn't the right term, I mean, but he said something about how, whatever, Count Dooku was like a visionary or something like that. And so, I guess because he liked Count Dooku, I don't know, it was still unclear to me in the end. Why did he want to do this? He went back, and I guess he talked about how it's all been different since Jack Black's character showed up. He did mention that when they confronted him about it.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, the whole thing was just weird. I felt like his motive wasn't really clear. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. But he had served in the family for apparently a very long time. And he mentioned before the Galactic Civil War and all that, like he had been a part of the New Republic, or the Republic, and then, the Empire, and now the New Republic and all that, and he just hates it all, apparently. But it seems like he was really kind of screwing over, the populace of his planet for what was a sort of a weirdly, I don't know, it didn't seem like the grudge was with these people. I don't know who he was trying to strike out against, but basically he apologizes, and she sends him off to exile, and that's it. It was just weird. It was so weird.
It was weird. But case closed, so they get permission to go talk to Axe.
Yeah. But before that happens, real quick, I know we gotta hurry. We're running over here, but she knights Grogu, makes him a knight of the Ancient Order of Independent Regencies. What does that mean? She makes him that because he's cute? Because she was helping him cheat at, like, space croquet? It was weird.
Yeah.
Anyway. It was, whatever, I don't know, maybe that'll pay off someday and it'll be fun, but who knows. But yeah, so we finally get out there, and they get to talk to Axe Wove. Do you want to do this one? You want me to do this one? There's not much to it.
Yeah, kick it off.
Oh, well. They walk up, and Axe is like, "Are you here to join us?" She says, "No, I'm here to reclaim my fleet," basically. And he's like, "Well, I'm in charge now, and I don't really want to give it up." So she goes, "All right, let's fight." In the, like, classic Mandalorian style, like, a duel, like, decides who's in charge, basically. So, not to draw it out, they fight. There were some pretty cool moves in there, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't be watching this, but it was really fun. There's some cool action there, and, like, cool reversals where, like, she gets thrown off of an edge, and she shoots, her grappling hook gets him and, like, pulls him down, but in the process reverses, and she ends up on her feet. It was all very cool. That said, she beats him like twice. She has him, like, at a point where he needs to yield, and by the end she just gets up and she basically says, like, we gotta stop killing each other, like, we gotta be united, right? It's all very, I don't know, I'm behind it. I think that's, like, what's best for the Mandalorian people, whatever, is to be on the same page. And he's like, I think not completely against it, but he basically says, like, you don't have the Darksaber, and that's what you need. Like, we don't go by the old ways, which, like, Din Djarin, whatever follows. He's like, right now, what we believe is you need the Darksaber, and then because of a technicality, something that happened earlier on, Din is able to now hand over the Darksaber because of what happened in the caves of Mandalore. Do you remember?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this. But yeah, basically Axe is like, you need to fight Din in order to like gain our, true leadership. He basically is like, you're fighting the wrong man. But then Din tries to hand Bo the Darksaber, which he's tried before in the end of season 2, because he doesn't really care. But Bo starts to repeat herself, which is like, hey, I can't take this. But then I guess there is this technicality, which I'm not going to lie, I thought it was a little bit of like a cop-out way to get the Darksaber back to Bo. But basically, when they were on Mandalore and Din gets captured by that like Cyclops alien, one-eyed machine thing. I forget the name of it, if it had one.
I don't know if it was a name.
Yeah, he basically gives Bo the Darksaber because he's trapped and she needed something to kind of kill him.
No, I think it had fallen out of his. He had gone unconscious and he dropped it or something. Like when he got thrown in a cage and he just lost it. And she picked it up to fight the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. I thought for some reason they agreed and she was okay. Yeah, that's probably true. But because of that, I guess the technicality is Bo's enemy, or who he was, or sorry, not Bo, Din's enemy or whatever, the Cyclops thing that he was fighting with, the enemy or whatever defeated Bo. Then Bo defeats the enemy, which then gives her the possession of the Darksaber, which brings up a few questions. One, this thing's not even like real. It's like 90%, 98% robotic. Like, does that thing even count as like a thing that could wield the Darksaber?
Well, again, I don't know if it's about that or if it's about possession, right? Because, I mean, did it even possess the Darksaber if it never left the ground in between the two of them? But whatever. It defeated him. I mean, he would have died if it hadn't been for Bo, probably, right? So,
well, I think our theories, or I think I had a theory where Bo and Din were going to fight. I think I've probably can squash that.
Yeah, I'm going to throw off another one of our theories, man. I was pretty set beginning this. I was like, here's how it's going to play out. In every episode, they're like, nope, not doing that, so. Or they do exactly that, and it's over already, so. Anyway, so the end of this episode comes to Bo has the Darksaber again, and like she technically won it in combat or whatever, so she gets
just
to keep
the most lackluster.
It was kind
possible.
It's kind of a bummer, but man, I kind of like I thought when he said like, all right, well then she's gonna have it. I thought he was gonna challenge her to a fight. That's what was gonna happen. He was just gonna be like, all right, let's fight, let's kill each other. I'm glad that didn't happen, I guess, but all this is to say, I would say. I mean, like, the parts with the Mandalorians in it were kind of cool, It was just that, like, 80-90% of the episode was this storyline that we don't really care about.
It's the casino scene all over again.
Yeah, it kind of was, man.
Yeah.
What's that planet called? Man, I should never ask you these things. You don't remember. In the moment I asked the question, I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, think out loud. You can use me as like a bounce to think out loud, but yeah, I'm really bad at remembering stuff.
Oh no.
It's where the little kids are.
Canto Bite. Yeah.
Yeah, Canto Bite.
I had to Google it. I have to admit it. I had to Google it. But all that to say, it was this episode, not Canto Bite, but it was like felt like kind of some wasted time. It's like you only had 3 episodes of this season left. Why not give us something more important than this? And my last note on this whole thing was, so we still don't really know who the bad guy is for this season. It's still, I guess there doesn't have to be like it's Moff Gideon or it's Thrawn or something like that. But I suspect at this point it's going to be like sort of a civil war thing. Like it's going to be all the Mandalorians fighting it with each other or something, I've started to say, and I started to think, and I've seen a couple other TikTok people who thought similarly, that maybe this whole thing is turning into, like they're betraying Din and Bo-Katan, at least Bo-Katan. But it felt like the armor was won over a little too easily with Bo-Katan. Mm-hmm. That she welcomed her a little too easily. And so there's some theories out there that they're getting ready to, like, switch the script on her and, like, suddenly be against her, use her in order to bring in these people, but then, kill her, or, I realize I don't think the timeline matches up, but do you remember she lost one of her pauldrons fighting the bird creature, whatever, a couple episodes ago, or last episode, I don't remember. And they found this piece of Beskar in that ship, and I had a moment where I was like, I wonder if it's that, but I don't think the timeline matches up. I don't think that it could have been hers.
I did also.
So who knows? My guess is at this point, the enemy of this episode or this season is going to be something to do with the Mandalorians themselves within their group, and maybe the Mythosaur will come into it again. But my guess is, like, the very end of this, they're going to tease Thrawn or somebody like that, and they're going to explain away the tie interceptors and all that kind of stuff.
So I did watch a breakdown video, and so I can't take credit for this, like, theory. But you mentioned Thrawn. I thought this is pretty. I think this has a really good chance of happening. But basically, we discover in either the last two episodes or the last episode where Moff is. Probably the last episode, and we'll probably get a Jedi, which will most likely be Ahsoka, that comes in, and she goes to interrogate Moff to then find the coordinates or to see where Thrawn is, and then it ends on that note, which then tees it up for the Ahsoka show that we get later this year, which I think would be really sick.
Yeah. I mean, I want these shows to stand on their own. That's the thing.
Well,
part of the problem
Mandalorian.
I just mean, like, I've really liked how the Mandalorian has gone. I think each season has ended pretty well so far. The Book of Boba Fett was a little bit of a disappointment, and part of it, not all of it. Part of it was because they took this, like, the most interesting chunk of it was, Mando's character and all that. You know what I mean? Like, there was a whole lot of it that we just kind of didn't relate to. They were changing his character and this and that kind of stuff, which, it's their character to change if they want, But I like the teasers. I don't want this season to only succeed because it had little teasers for another series in it. You know what I mean? I don't think I worry.
I think, yeah, I hear you on the Boba Fett. I think could be an isolated event, because I think the inherent problem of that storyline is writing about a character that has a lot of secrecy, similar to, like, well, not similar. I should say, like, Boba Fett's character's intention was to not really know much about that person. So I think there was, like, an inherent issue with that one-off story. I will say this: I think what's going to happen is they're going to take a note from the MCU universe or Marvel universe, and a lot of these TV shows cross-pollinate. So, like, Mandalorian, like, because right now all these events are happening in the same timeline. I believe Ahsoka's show will be in the same timeline, so it wouldn't be surprising that the Mandalorian are a huge presence in Ahsoka as well. So, like, there's,
for sure.
But I also understand kind of where you're coming from because of that Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, as long as it's like natural. I like the idea of the characters crossing over a little bit, But I don't. I mean, I don't think they did it well in the Book of Boba Fett, and I'd like to see it be a little smoother. But
yeah, I agree.
Anyway, man, who the heck knows what's going to happen in the next couple episodes? But just 2 episodes left now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Real quick, is the Ahsoka show coming out later this year, or is it next year?
It was supposed to. I think it was actually supposed to come out last year to begin with, but I think it's this year now. Sometime this year, I think. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah,
so we can give our audience mid to late to 2023.
All right. Well, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much, man. There's so much Star Wars. I grew up with 3 movies, and now I just ran into somebody who had never seen any Star Wars movies or shows or anything. And I said, like, he was, like, intimidated. Like, it's like, there's so much now. I said, yeah, there are 9 of the main movies, plus a couple extra now, plus, like, 2 animated series, or 3 technically, if you count Resistance, which wasn't great. But, there are now 3 whatever, soon to be 3 live action series with like seasons or whatever. There's a ton, and so it would be a huge thing to try to take on now, like as an adult, But
well, totally. I mean, there's a lot of noise. I think the movies were always the anchor point of like the main timeline, but now like the backlash of the sequels, there's like no main timeline that everything points to right now. I mean, there is, but there's no movies going on.
Well, yeah, I think certainly they've seen the success of the Mandalorian, which gave them the guts to go forward with Boba Fett and now Ahsoka and all that. I mean, like they're starting to lean on these pillars rather than the movies because they've been accepted better. They've been more run with greater creativity and control and that sort of thing. So. Anyway, man.
I guess that's a new territory of letting TV kind of be dictate the main storyline.
I mean, you could call it TV. I'd call it, like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni a little bit. There's a certain amount of like they're just giving creative control to the right people, and they're sort of allowing for more consistency. And that was one of their big problems with the sequel trilogy. So yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, this was not my favorite episode. In fact, it might be my least favorite episode of all the Mandalorian so far. I don't know. But
yeah, I would agree with that.
There's still only 2 episodes left, and I know that's got to be building something amazing, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, stay tuned. The next 2 episodes should be good. If we get another filler on the next one, I'm going to be we're
going to cancel the podcast after that. So
yeah.
Anyway, so here for your almost certainly last episode of the Pew Pew Time podcast. I'm Nate.
Short-lived.
And that's Colin.
And that's me.
That's Colin. We'll see you later. Next week.
Later.